Hey there, Brett here with Quarter Properties, your Myrtle Beach area real estate expert. And today I want to hop on here and just talk with you for a minute about interest rates. What is going on with mortgage rates, right? Mortgage rates were dropping, they had gotten below 6, we saw some rates around 5, with some incentives, but in general, they are around maybe 5.5%. Now they've gone up to, pretty much around 6.25, 6.3. So what is going on with rates? And a lot of people are hoping with the departure of Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, his last meeting is tomorrow, and he departs his term ends on the 15th as chair. Now, he doesn't just disappear. He can technically stay on as a governor until 2028. But a lot of people are just asking, wondering, maybe hoping that, hey, once the new Fed chair gets in, are we going to 3%, to what was a historically low rate period that we saw after COVID? So the short answer is I have no clue what is going to happen, but I will say this, they've gone ahead and said that probably for 2026, it looks like that the rates are going to hold very steady. Why does the Fed raise or lower rates? What causes them to raise rates? What causes them to lower rates? Pretty much they're looking at a couple of things, primarily inflation and unemployment. And right now, they were predicting rates to come down, and they were on the way down throughout 2026. But obviously what's going on overseas has caused some concerns for inflation to pop back up. So now they're kind of forecasting that rates are probably going to hold somewhat, if not very steady, throughout the rest of 2026 until we can get some of the uncertainty removed overseas. That way they feel good that inflation is not going to be on the rise. But when I talk to you as a buyer, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing, right? If interest rates go down. If you look at things as a buyer historically, when we've had some times of rates coming down, you look at the dot-com bubble burst back in 2001. After that, prices rose 6.5%. We look at some COVID era low rates, historically low rates, right? What did historically low rates do to prices? Well, they rose over 20+% in a lot of markets due to the COVID era interest rates. So is it good or bad for you as a buyer? Well, that we'd have to look at your specific situation and see. But when you look at it, let's say the average price in our area is $300,000. Well, if they do cut rates considerably, let's say they got down to 4.5%. Well, let's say you went with a 6.5% increase that we saw back after 2001. Well, then you're going to see your price on your $300,000 house rise about $20,000. If it's the 20, if we saw aggressive rate cuts, down to the, 4 area, and you saw interest rates jump 15, 20%. We could talk, 20%, we're talking about a $60,000 increase in home price. So, what's going to happen with interest rates coming in with the new Fed chair? Once they get approved, it's looking like rates are probably going to stay pretty consistent or so for the next, 6-7 months or so until we get some more certainty. But if a new Fed chair gets in, and if the uncertainty calms down some and inflation is low and unemployment is solid, and then they do start to aggressively cut rates, well, what does that mean for you as a buyer? Well, here's what it means. We need to be talking. We need to be talking about your specific situation and whether or not it makes sense for you to go ahead and buy now or whether it makes sense for you to wait. Every situation is going to be different. So if you found this information helpful, if you liked it, please click the like button. If you'd like to keep up with more interesting kind of insight on real estate and or the Myrtle Beach area, please subscribe. If you want to chat about interest rates and kind of where they're headed and what that means for you, right down there in the description, you've got my email address, you've got my phone number. If you want to keep up with the house prices here in Myrtle Beach area and keep up with the latest listings, the easiest possible way is right there in the link in the description below. And if you're thinking about selling your house, you've got a link there as well that you can keep up with the value. And we'll be talking to you soon.